station, where he was told of the allegations and cautioned. He opted to remain silent. He was placed in custody pending investigations. Police say a man who admitted to allegedly raping a 21-year-old female in Region 6 yesterday is to be charged with the offence. Police say the victim was walking along a street when the assailant attacked her from behind and threw her into a bushy drain and forcibly committed the act. Following a report to the station in the area, police later arrested the suspect. Charges are pending while he remains in custody. Leader of the opposition Joseph Harman believes the revised Low Carbon Development Strategy, LCDS, is a vision without benefits for all Guyanese. The opposition leader, commenting yesterday at a virtual media brief, says the LCDS is a scheme for friends of the government to benefit.
The new LCDS, as it's being touted by the PPP, is a clear sort of a knockoff from the shallow strategy that was created in 2008-2009 by Barra Jagdeo. The PPP thought that by adding a few pictures here, a few sentences there, that this would be a fool the Guyanese people that this is something new. But it's old wine in a new barrel. Same stuff, same old nonsense. So there's nothing new about this LCDS. In fact, it's a rushed strategy that is tantamount to what I would call a Ponzi scheme. We're all seemingly welcomed and included, but only a few will benefit.
Mr. Harman says, unlike the Green State strategy of the APNU plus AFC administration, which saw wide consultations, the LCDS fails to address issues of the ordinary Guyanese.
The LCDS fails to outline clearly how the people of Guyana will benefit through plans and policies that generate long-term benefits to the people and growth to the economy. The LCDS, once again, is looking to the Amila Falls for energy production, the same falls that dries up twice a year. This can no longer be seen as a surprise by the PPP, as they seem to be doing one thing over and over. They only know to do things one way. And so it is nothing new that they've gone all the way back.
Mr. Harman calls for President Irfan Ali to carefully examine the Green State strategy and formulate a strategy to benefit all Guyanese.
I trust that in these next 4 months of consultation that they speak about, it is not used just for window dressing, but that President Ali will see good sense and go back to the Green State Development Strategy 2040 vision, which encompasses all of the aspirations of the Guyanese people in it. And it's not just a little business where you're selling carbon credits, you're making the money, the businessmen get the money, and nothing trickles down to the Guyanese people.
World leaders are wrapping up a climate change summit where President Ali is in attendance and has promised that a revised LCDS will form part of Guyana's strategy to reduce carbon emissions. The Health Ministry says it is recording an overall reduction of COVID infections, hospitalization and deaths. During Tuesday's COVID update, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony says the reduction is remarkable.
Well, first of all, we have noticed a trend where there has been a decline in cases across the country. So right now we have 2,673 active cases, and the cases vary by regions. So the regions where I would consider that we have hotspots are really in Region 3, Region 4. We also have in Region 8 and Region 10.
Dr. Anthony says as a result of reduced new cases, the numbers are on the decline in the hospitals.
So hospitalization, because we are getting less cases, we have also noticed that in our hospitalization rates. Right now, we have 60 persons in hospitals across the country. 35 of them are at Ocean View, with 14 of them in the ICU. So this is a drastic change from what we had a couple of weeks ago, when we were seeing about 100 and 120 cases at Ocean View. That is now down to 35. We have also had up to 38 persons in the ICU. That has come down to about 14.
The COVID death rate has also plummeted, and the ministry says it's ramping up efforts to reduce deaths.
So right now, we have, over the last 24 hours, we would have seen at least one death. Again, with a decrease in hospitalization for severe cases, we are also noticing that the death rates are going down. And so that's also a very important sign. The mortality rate right now, it's 12.2% to every, or 12 person to every 10,000 persons in the population. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll see this number go down further, and that's what we're working on right now.
Guyana has 383,013 adults who have taken a first dose COVID vaccine and 245,932 fully vaccinated adults. There are 18,385 fully vaccinated children ages 12 to 17 years old and 27,932 partially vaccinated. The former head of the Special Organized Crime Unit, SOCU, Sidney James, is wanted by the police. The wanted bulletin by the police states that the former Assistant Commissioner of Police is wanted for a series of reports of obtaining money by false pretense and fraud. The former head of SOCU was instrumental in the unit investigating Bara Jagdeo, now Vice President, Irfan Ali, now President, and former senior officials of NISIL. 20-year-old Monique Caesar of Cummings Park, Sophia, who was yesterday busted with marijuana in blue soap at the Lusignan prison, has been charged. Ms. Caesar appeared at the Vigilance Magistrates Court before Magistrate Fabio Azor and pleaded guilty to 2 charges read by the magistrate. The magistrate imposed a $13,200 fine with 6 months community service for the narcotics charge and a $26,000 fine or 1 month imprisonment for the place prohibited article charge. And now we take a look at regional news. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell of Grenada Tuesday predicted that the next general election, scheduled for no later than June 2023, will be one of the most fascinating ones in the history of Grenada. Mitchell, 75, who has led the ruling New National Party, NNP, to consecutive whitewash victories in the last 2 general elections for control of the 15-member parliament, has also indicated that the upcoming poll will be his last bid for presidential office. Loop News has reported that Mitchell, a political newcomer, won the top post in the NDC during the party's convention last Sunday, defeating 2 other candidates in the process. Speaking about the upcoming election, Mitchell expressed confidence that citizens will return his ruling NNP to the office whenever the date of the election is announced. Barbados opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley is crying shame on the lack of provision made for his office. Atherley made his displeasure known to lawmakers on the government side as they met to approve over $95.9 million from the Consolidated Fund to supplement the 2021-2022 estimates. Atherley, who broke away from the governing Barbados Labour Party shortly after the general election in May of 2018 to form his opposition party, says he was convinced only lip service is given to his office. He lamented the absence of adequate staff while insisting that the Parliament should financially support the office of the opposition with costs for returning retaining legal fees in certain circumstances. He was addressing lawmakers in Parliament on Tuesday as the Standing Finance Committee on Supplementary Estimates discussed the $95,966,535 earmarked for various government ministries. Atherley says his office had made a formal request of the Management Commission of Parliament for a research officer, but more than a year later the matter had not been addressed, leaving him to do all the necessary research himself. The opposition leader further bemoaned the staffing levels of the office, suggesting that there was need for more personnel and allowance for some staff. Barbados' Minister of Maritime Affairs, Kirk Humphrey, says the government is moving to put in place new laws by early 2022 to regulate fishing. The Maritime Minister says the government is also considering to have the Barbados Coast Guard empowered more to allow them to intervene to monitor the use of seine nets to catch chubs, which will be outlawed. He says the Coast Guard will also monitor fishermen engaged in pot fishing to ensure they register with the Ministry of Maritime Affairs and the Blue Economy. According to Barbados Nation News, the minister made the remarks on Monday during the reopening ceremony of the Paynes Bay Fish Market, which had been closed for renovations earlier this year. And now for international news, we join the BBC World Service.
Hello, this is Julie Candler with the BBC News. A new report says all sides in the conflict in Ethiopia's Tigray region may have committed war crimes. The joint investigation by the UN and the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission found that there had been extrajudicial executions, torture and rape. Here's our correspondent in Geneva, Imogen Folks.
It's a big thing to actually shine the spotlight on these kinds of atrocities. Often countries in conflict where these things are going on, they prefer not to have UN investigators there. You have women in this report who have testified to being gang raped, people who've seen their families killed in front of them. The people who did that should be held accountable. Moving on from there, of course, what Michelle Bachelet is calling for is an immediate ceasefire before this conflict gets really out of hand.
Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said the report had found no evidence of genocide. The head of the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, has told the BBC it's facing a funding crisis that could put its future at risk. Philippe Lazzarini says there's currently a shortfall of around $100 million. UNRWA provides education and primary health care for some 5 million Palestinian refugees. Europe's top human rights body has withdrawn a controversial anti-hate speech campaign after it provoked an outcry in fiercely secular France. The Council of Europe campaign aimed at promoting women's freedom to wear a Muslim headscarf. Hugh Schofield is in Paris.
The campaign featured a series of faces of women, one half with and one half without an Islamic scarf or veil. The slogan read, "Beauty is in diversity as freedom is in hijab." The Strasbourg-based Council of Europe said it was part of its programme to fight against anti-Muslim discrimination. But in Paris, the almost unanimous reaction among politicians was stupefaction. The Minister for Youth in President Macron's government, Sarah El Haïry, said the campaign, in effect, promoted the wearing of Islamic head coverings, which ran counter to the basic principles of the French Republic.
The UN Climate Summit has turned its focus to finance, with firms controlling trillions of dollars in private sector capital, promising to help fund the global transition to green economies such as renewable energy. Hundreds of the world's biggest banks and finance companies have joined an alliance led by the former Bank of England Governor Mark Carney, as Roger Harabin reports.
Mark Carney says $100 trillion is needed to transform the global economy onto a low-carbon path this decade. He says the sums needed for clean tech can't possibly be provided by governments, so they must come from the private sector. He's leading what's called the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero. Critics have complained that the banks involved would still be investing in fossil fuels too.
World news from the BBC. The World Health Organization has approved an Indian-made COVID vaccine for emergency use, paving the way for the jab to be accepted in many developing countries. The Bharat Biotech vaccine was found to have 78% efficacy against the coronavirus. It's suitable for low and middle-income countries because it's easy to store. A court in Israel has issued an injunction to halt the auction of tattoo stamps used by the Nazis after an appeal from a Holocaust survivor group. The stamps were used on Jewish and other inmates at the Auschwitz death camp. The Jerusalem auction house Zollman's said the sale had been intended to increase awareness. The American music star Britney Spears has said she blames her mother for the conservatorship that was imposed on her 13 years ago. In a now deleted Instagram post, she said her mother had given her father the idea, adding that he wasn't smart enough to think of it himself. Britney's father, Jamie, has been the public face of the legal agreement, which means the singer has little control over her personal and financial affairs. A Dutch court has ruled that a small snack bar in the south of the country can keep its name, rejecting a lawsuit brought by the American fast food chain Wendy's. The snack bar has been trading under the same name since the late 1980s. Olivia Noon reports.
It's a legal battle that's been going on for more than 20 years. A small Dutch snack bar named after the owner's daughter versus an international corporation. The American chain Wendy's says the snack bar's brand is invalid because it only has one shop and its minimal advertising means there's no genuine trademark. But the court ruled that even minor use of the brand was sufficient to qualify for the trademark in Belgium, the Netherlands and Luxembourg. It's a major blow for the American chain, which operates more than 6,500 restaurants worldwide and hopes to open branches across the 3 countries.
BBC News.
And now to end the news, the lead stories once again. A doctor was last night killed at his medical clinic in Kingston, Georgetown. 2 men who rode on bicycles more than 500 miles to raise awareness about cancer and mental health have arrived in Letham. The ex-husband of a Wismar Linden businesswoman has been arrested for attempting to take her life Tuesday night at her business place. Police say a man who admitted to allegedly raping a 21-year-old female in Region 6 yesterday is to be charged with the offence. Regionally, the Prime Minister of Grenada says the 2023 election in Grenada will be the last time he will be running for office. And internationally, a new report states that all sides in Ethiopia's Tigray conflict have violated international human rights, some of which may amount to crimes against humanity. And that's the end of the news. This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.
News Talk Radio Guyana is the station for you, bringing you news updates every hour, major news 3 times a day, edutainment on a higher level, shows like Beat the Clock, Brunch on the Coast, The Afternoon Jam, Youth's Perspective. It's a station that goes wherever you go, streaming online at www.bit.ly/newstalk1031. It's News Talk Radio Guyana, 103.1 FM. News Talk Radio Guyana, 2 years long, going strong. 103.1 FM time.
26 minutes after noon.
Find me love